get the stream. Alright, let me wait a couple of viewers to come in. Send you the link. All right, so I am here with Thomas, and you made some news today, so we're going to talk about it. First of all, tell me where are you from and what's been your experience so far dealing with COVID?
Yeah, I mean, originally I'm from Argentina, but I grew up in South Florida in Miami-Dade County for a while now. And yeah, it's just, it's been pretty terrible here. Since March, we have seen sort of a slowly creep up of COVID-19 cases in the state. Just a few weeks ago, you had the Governor Ron DeSantis, claiming victory over the pandemic here. He actually threw like what I describe as a temper tantrum, honestly, in front of the media, where, he was, basically accusatory and indignant at, folks that questioned what was happening in the state. And just a few weeks later, now we're seeing record-breaking cases almost every day. Over 4,300 people have died. There's no sense of political leadership, no plan. Hospital ICUs are at capacity all over the state. And yeah, there's no, as other states are getting through this, opening back up, other countries are getting through this. Florida is in worse shape than ever before, and there's no sense of a horizon as to when this is going to end.
And before I show the clip, because obviously, you confronted him today, which nobody in the media seems to want to do. Basically, from my understanding, he opened the economy very, very quickly before all of the parameters were met for safe opening. Do you feel that was because it's an election year and Florida is key and he wanted to, help President Trump, who he's been close with? What do you think went into that decision to open up Florida before it was ready?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, not only did they open too early, but they also closed really late. And a lot has happened since, but I'm sure people will remember headlines around the time of spring break, because Florida refused to close its beaches, to really shut down the spring break operation right here in South Florida. And it's just been the lack of political will, the lack of political leadership, lack of responsibility that has really encompassed all decisions around this public health crisis. I believe, and it's been reported, that DeSantis is really taking cues, as you said, from Trump, right? They believe that, this is going to go away. Let's pretend like it never happened. Let's just push through this. They're really doing a de facto herd immunity strategy, which now we know that people can get, or it seems that people can get reinfected twice over, maybe more. So that's probably not going to work either. And now we are facing the consequence of that, right? Other states did bad things, good things, but a lot of states did what they had to do, and they're moving on, right? They're getting through this. Other countries, New Zealand, for example, they've managed to bring this under control. Florida, again, it was all, as you said, politically motivated. All the decisions were a calculation around November, around the economy, keeping things going, keeping people back at their jobs. And the worst part is that if you see the curve, when things closed down in the curve here in Florida for as little as they did, it was when cases were still pretty down. And now that they're worse than ever, there's a huge spike, record-breaking cases every day. They're talking about sending our kids back to in-person classes. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous what's happening in Florida.
And let me show what happened today. Where was Governor DeSantis? In Miami?
Yeah, it was at Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Okay, so this is Thomas getting up front, doing more than any journalist has done, which says a lot about the journalists in Florida. Here we go.
But it was obviously much different.
Shame on you. You are an embarrassment. You are an embarrassment. We're getting record-breaking cases every day, and you are doing nothing. You are falsifying information, and you are misleading the public. Over 4,000 people have died, and you are blaming the protesters. You guys have no plan, and you're doing nothing. Shame on you. Shame on you. Don't touch social distance. Don't touch me. Shame on both of you. You guys are misleading the public. You have no plan. 4,000 people have died, and we're getting record cases every day. Every day. Shame on you. You should resign, Ron DeSantis. Resign.
But it was obviously much different.
Shame on you.
So obviously, one thing that stands out there is he's not wearing a mask, similar to Trump in most cases. What kind of sparked you? Obviously, you went out of your way to be there. What kind of sparked you at this point to challenge him? Because my assumption is you were hoping to get some press and attention out of this.
Yeah, and I'll add that there's not a statewide mask mandate, but there is a recently ordered Miami-Dade County mask mandate. So, again, Governor DeSantis, just like Trump, they come to this county, they pretend that they're above the rules, that they don't have to follow what all of us, else have to follow. And it's in the interest of public health, right? The masks are mandated because they're proven to stop the spread of the virus. It's a really simple thing that we can all do to take care of one another. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I just went because I live in this state. DeSantis, unfortunately, is my governor. Carlos Jimenez is my mayor. I live in Miami-Dade County, also unfortunately. And I don't feel like they have my best interest in mind. I never feel that way. But now they're politically motivated to have a public health implication that, can get me sick, can possibly kill me, as 4,381 other people. That is, destroying small businesses. It's destroying the economy of the state because they won't do the things that we need to do to just get through this. And I just felt like I needed to go and I needed to say my piece, right? To tell them that, they are an embarrassment. Shame on them. People have died. I feel like people need to do that more. People need to go and confront, challenge elected officials, especially when they're messing up this bad.
Right. And what kind of boggles my mind is, it's the summer, so obviously Florida's sunny all year round, but particularly now people want to get out to the beaches, to bars, this and that. But if he would have just, shut things down for 3-4 weeks, people would have been upset, but had some pain in the beginning, you wouldn't be seeing, they had the single record yesterday, 15,000, more than New York had at its highest. So what do you think is the reason that he's refused to do that? Is it because Florida is such a tourist economy that any type of shutdown, he was focusing a lot more on the economy, more importantly, his political ambitions? Because obviously if the economy tanks, not good for your political career. What is going into this guy's mind? We saw the political ads, him with the MAGA Lego and all that disheartening stuff. But Why the living in an alternate reality this man seems to be?
Because they are living in an alternate reality. Remember, the reason why a lot of people in this country are not wearing a mask and it's become so politicized, I believe it's because Trump himself has refused to wear a mask until a couple of days ago. That signaled to their base, to his supporters, that this is a political issue to stand their ground on. So they politicized something as simple as wearing a mask in the middle of a pandemic, right? And there are a lot of political and special interests in Florida that are pushing against, a closure of the economy. Even though doing that from the get-go would have allowed us to get on with businesses as many other states and countries, right? You have Disney World that just reopened. They went viral for that creepy welcome home video on Twitter that people were spoofing, but it's not funny, right? Because they're going to be a major center where people go and the virus gets propagated. You have the tourism industry, hospitality industry, and these special interests are really pushing against the advice of public health experts. You have to remember that back a couple of months ago, when people were calling on Trump to invoke the Defense Production Act to order certain companies to build ventilators, right? When there was that shortage of ventilators, and there still is. The reason why he didn't do so initially for a number of weeks was because of pressure from retail industry and other industry lobbyists against him doing that, right? Because these companies were like, no, you just want to keep making money, want to keep doing what we're doing. We don't want to do our civic duty, right? What is needed for the public benefit at this time. So it's just the cult of profit against public well-being, honestly.
And, Florida obviously is a key state. Some political pundits say if Trump doesn't win Florida, he's toast. Do you think that is going into this as far as, Trump and Republicans' calculation? And when I say Trump, obviously DeSantis is on board with Trump, is somehow it'll be, a winning issue for them in Florida if they get the schools open. Florida starts a little early, so as soon as next month.
Yeah, 100%, right? I mean, the school issue is complicated, right? Because you have a ton of working class people that, either are working from home or are not working from home in a lot of cases still. And, it's complicated for them to have their kids at their house, to have to live like this, right? But the reality is that if you open up the schools with us having 12 to 15,000 cases daily, right? The kids can get sick at school. They come back home. They get their parents sick. Then you have to quarantine the kids. You have to quarantine the parents. There's a lot, there's liability issues around the schools. There's a whole mess around what's going to happen around just having in-person classes. And again, I think we got to the heart of the matter, right? Which is like, if they would have done what they needed to do 3 months ago, we could have just closed everything down, gotten testing, tested everybody, just acted responsibly, following the guidance of public health officials. We would have been over this, like many other states and many other countries. And now schools are reopening, summer is wrapping up, we're entering the fall, things are worse than ever before. It's just ridiculous. It's insane.
And can I ask you, obviously you can't get in their minds. Are they fucking crazy having Disney World reopen right now? I'm seeing images of just like people totally, walking by each other, certainly not 6 feet, maybe not even 2 feet. Obviously the governor, can stop that from happening. Disney, obviously a big donor to a lot of politicians, but Disney World has made a lot of money over the last decades. It is a super spreader like nobody's business. Just the waiting on lines for things. I've seen some of the video. There was a amusement park reporter, which I didn't know was a thing, who was showing that people weren't close. What is the calculation into allowing Disney World to open? Yeah, the commercials are cute and, welcome home. But that's a death wish.
I think it's just greed. It's just greed, man. Like they're just greedy. They just want to make more and more money. And obviously Disney makes a lot of money, right? Like movies, video games, merchandise. So they have other sources of income, right? But it's just greed. Like they just want to get people back in those parks, buying tickets into the hotels, just to make more and more money. And if people get sick, like they don't care. Like but that's the thing, right? Like under capitalism, their only responsibility is to their shareholders, which is to make more money. So elected officials and government needs to come in and say, no, like this is not acceptable. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You're not allowed to reopen right now in the interest of public health. But we can't trust Disney World to make that decision because they're not a responsible actor. They never have been. All they care about. But unfortunately, we have corrupt politicians that are bought out by companies like Disney World that are not willing to step up and display the political leadership that is needed to meet the moment.
And can you kind of talk about, obviously, DeSantis is the governor. Has there been any leadership among Democrats? I mean, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is down there in your area. I think she's corrupt as hell. But she's running for re-election. Has she been leading the charge against DeSantis, more aside from, virtue signaling?
I mean, I couldn't say about Debbie Wasserman Schultz, to be honest. I don't think so. But I mean, I think obviously Democrats have had a better line among things. At least they're saying the right things. Obviously, like Florida is a Republican trifecta. Like the House of Representatives and the Senate in the state legislature is controlled by Republicans. The state courts are controlled by Republicans. The governor is controlled by Republicans. Here in Miami-Dade County or county and city mayor are Republicans. So they really have like a monopoly on power, honestly, except on some local municipalities. So they really call the shots. So I think, some Democrats have had, much better messaging. They've spoken for better things, but they don't even have the power, right, to affect change and to properly challenge what's happening. And that's because of a lot of different factors. There has been some bright spots, like there's a state representative called Anna Skimani, who is amazing, who has been, hosting Zoom town halls every week to help people with their unemployment claims and walking them through that. And her office has been doing that. There's another state senator called Jason Pisso, they've really stepped up their like in district stuff to help constituents. But again, like the Florida Democratic Party has not been an effective vehicle for political power and gaining political power so far. And it's unfortunate because we end up being governed by an authoritarian, out of control, unchecked Florida GOP, that normally just results in really terrible policy for low income people. But in the middle of an unprecedented global pandemic, you're seeing the disaster that's currently unfolding, right?
And I just want to, because we've had more viewers come in, so excuse me, I just want to show this video one more time so people kind of have an idea what Thomas was up to today, because it's more than I've seen from most journalists. Let's take a look one more time.
Every day.
But it was obviously much different.
Shame on you. You are an embarrassment. You are an embarrassment. We're getting record-breaking cases every day, and you are doing nothing. You are falsifying information, and you are misleading the public. Over 4,000 people have died, and you are blaming the protesters. You guys have no plan, and you're doing nothing. Shame on you. Shame on you. Don't touch social distance. Don't touch me. Shame on both of you. You guys are misleading the public. You have no plan. 4,000 people have died, and we're getting record cases every day. Every day. Shame on you. You should resign, Ron DeSantis. Resign.
But it was obviously much different.
Shame on.
I'm just curious, did any journalists there, I saw them, taking video of you, did any of them try to interview you, ask you about?
Yeah, some folks followed me outside and interviewed me. They got my number, and then a lot of other folks got reached out to me via Twitter and various Instagram, social media. So yeah, I've done some interviews, and I've seen the video in a bunch of different stories and national outlets. So it seems like it really went viral. I'm happy for it. I'm happy that people are seeing that you can challenge elected officials, even if they're as powerful as the governor of Florida. I hope more people do that. Hope more people are inspired to disrupt these press conferences, because so far, they've used them as sort of a way of propagating their propaganda, right, and their lies and their misinformation. So it's really up to us to go and tell them, like, no, like, you guys are doing a terrible job.
I want to focus on that because in Florida there was I think they fired actually somebody who was a whistleblower because she was saying that they were basically cooking the books to underreport the cases. This was several weeks ago. Can you kind of talk about what you mean when you were accusing the governor of manipulating the data?
Yeah, I mean, they fired this data scientist that was responsible for the Florida dashboard. Up to very recently, like, journalists were not able to get proper data around hospital beds, ICU beds. And when we finally were able to gather that data, it showed that hospital ICUs were over capacity or almost at capacity all over the state. Miami-Dade, Broward, Orange County, which are, really populous, metropolitan areas of the state. And just all kinds of data manipulation, like the stuff around the unemployment benefit claims. It's just been a really sophisticated effort to manipulate public opinion and hide what's happening from the public. And I think they were able to do it while things weren't so bad a couple of weeks ago. But when things really got out of hand all of a sudden, and it wasn't just about hiding the amount of ICUs at hospitals, but it was the fact that hospital ICUs were at capacity and people were on these long waiting lists and not being able to get treatment, and tests right now are taking 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks to get results. You know what I mean? And there's they were trying to not do as much testing, right? Because, like Trump says, right, more testing is going to lead to more cases, which is insane. But as things got worse, it just became harder and harder to hide the scope of what was happening, right? So it just kind of all spilled into view.
Mm-hmm. And can you kind of talk about, obviously Florida, we know about the seniors, which are greatly at risk, but Miami area, which is the epicenter right now, has a pretty significant undocumented community. And we know that the numbers that are coming out, Latinos, black people have been disproportionately harmed. Do you know about the undocumented community there? Are they providing services for undocumented people? Are they even factoring undocumented people into the numbers? What is your knowledge on that?
No, of course not. I mean, Homestead, which is a agricultural community in the sort of southernmost tip of Miami-Dade County, farm workers have been disproportionately affected. At the Homestead Hospital, they've been, filling up the ICU beds. Remember that Miami-Dade County was the first county to capitulate with Trump's immigration crackdown when he first gained office. In terms of they passed a county ordinance forcing law enforcement to honor detainer requests, which means holding people for ICE to come pick them up, right? So there's already a climate of fear. When you go to get tested right now at the Marlins Stadium in Little Havana, a predominantly immigrant community, there are signs that say that you need a driver's license to get tested. That's not actually the case. Like, you can show any ID, whether U.S. or foreign, but just the fact that you go there and there's police everywhere, there's people in National Guard, Army fatigues all over the place, and you see a sign that says that you need a driver's license. If you're an undocumented immigrant without a driver's license, because remember, Florida is one of those states where undocumented immigrants can't access a driver's license. It's not like New York, right, that recently passed that. you get afraid. So a lot of people get there, they immediately turn around. They're like, no, I am not going to be here without my license. There's too much police around. And then if you happen to, decide to go through it, you get tested. Corp, you actually need a social security or a driver's license number to retrieve the results. How does that make any sense? That's not good public. It's not only inhumane. It's just pragmatically speaking, it's bad public policy. Like, we want everyone to get tested. We want everybody to know if they're sick. And there's a huge population that lives under fear in this county, in this state, that does not have access to those resources. And everything that they're doing they face obstacles around it.
So basically, where are we going now? Because we got 13 days, July 26th, the extended $600 is up for people unemployed. I'm assuming landlords in Florida are chomping at the bit. Moratoriums are lifting on evictions. So as Florida is the epicenter right now, Florida, Arizona, Texas, but Miami area is the epicenter in Florida, is Governor DeSantis talking about putting, continuing the moratorium on evictions, additional relief from the government? I mean, I know obviously we're waiting on federal help. What is he talking about in terms of relief and certainty for people? Because we're about 2 weeks from the economic cliff.
That's a great question. Honestly, the last moratorium on evictions, advocacy organizations were pressuring him to extend it, and he extended it within hours of it, within hours of that moratorium expiring. Can you imagine if you have to pay rent, right? If you're a small business, a family, and you're just waiting anxiously to see if the governor is gonna extend the moratorium, and he's waiting until that last possible minute to do so. It's cruel. It's inhumane. And you ask a really great question. What's gonna happen when that moratorium is lifted, right? Because it's not rent forgiveness. Like, people still have to pay all those months. Things are worse than ever. People haven't been able to get their unemployment claims, and if they've had to live, right? They have to buy groceries, they have to buy things for their kids. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Unreal. Any last words? Obviously, you're passionate about this, and in a way, it almost looks like whether just through morons and negligence or intentional, it just seems like a genocide going on, because you got a lot of old people there who are easily susceptible to. You have a governor living on another planet with his head up a president's ass who's living on another planet. What's your parting words for people?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to tell people that, we need better, leaders. We need better political leadership. We deserve better, right? We deserve a lot better than this. These people are playing political games with our lives at this point. So just, continue speaking out. Don't be afraid of challenging power, when it's right to do so. And just speak out. Just speak out and get involved. And because people, you normally, and you should be involved anytime, right? But now people are dying every day. So we need everyone involved, pushing back against what's happening.
And you have any ideas or plans to run for office yourself, or?
No, not me. But I work as a community organizer for an organization called United We Dream. So I'm happy to continue doing that. Supporting my immigrant community, and helping other people, run for office and get political power. We need more people. We need people in power that are going to represent our values, that are going to fight for us, and are not just there because of their egos or narcissism, or to make money and enrich themselves. We need people that are going to embody public service.
Good parting words. Thanks for what you're doing, and keep in touch.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.
So that was Thomas Kennedy, who basically went commando on Governor Ron DeSantis earlier today. So I did a bit of an impromptu live stream with him because I wanted to get him before it would be impossible to get him. And honestly, the truth is, how sad it is. Yeah, the media here and there challenge like Trump's press secretary, Trump himself. But it's about time the media starts screaming. Enough with the, we got to be neutral and, objective. Here's an objective fact. 135,000 people have lost their lives. Here's an objective fact. A lot more people are going to lose their lives. Whether you want to call it ineptitude or intentional, whatever. So it's about time journalists start shouting some questions, maybe even some demands. Because if you want to be a neutral robot, then you could be a neutral robot as the rest of us die. So I'm glad Thomas is doing what he's doing. And you notice, Governor didn't even try to talk to him, didn't try to communicate with him, rebut what he was saying. Nope. Just waited for his security to push him out. So we'll stay on it. And I think, he makes a good point within safety. Obviously, if you're in a hectic hot zone, depending on what you want to do, for some people, it'll be worth the risk to go out and challenge politicians like that. For others, maybe not. But, luckily that clip is going to get around, and that's how you apply pressure to politicians. And frankly, DeSantis is not going to change course unless he feels his political tushy is on the line here. So, before I go, because it's 10 o'clock Eastern, we're trying to grow our membership. Keep on signing up if you can for those kind of interviews, as well as our in-the-field reporting. I will end, and see you tomorrow, of course, I will end with our promo. We go out in the field. We've been all over this country in the last 2 years.
Standing Rock. I've been with you. I've been with you since Standing Rock.
Wow, you got me on right now.
We're doing it, baby. We're going to South Bend. It's time to show the real Mayor Pete.
In 100 days, they tore down 1,000 houses in 100 days.
Thank you, whether it's Standing Rock or Flint or everything else you do. You guys, it's not even like watching news. It's just watching truth,
It's not me and you, Jordan. It's the ruling class. It's David Koch. It's the Walton family, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's them, not us, that benefit from these illegal offensive wars. Come on over here. Whoa!
We're here at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and you are going to see live the actual caucus process. We are here.
We go out in the field, and we give the microphone back to the people.
Yo! Cool! I know who you are, yo!
How you doing, man?
You the man, yo!
Peace out. Good night.